About now. Can you hear me now? Is this working? Well, the light came.
Testing,
Hello.
testing. Hello.
Okay, sorry. All right, good morning, committee. In the interest of time, we'll go ahead and get started. We've got a quorum. I appreciate you being flexible as we move the time. The other committee proposed having a joint meeting, and we set a 9:45 start for that. I wanted 15 minutes to kind of do our business before they joined, but I noticed that they put on their calendar 9:30. So we're starting at 9:15, and we're still going to try and get ahead of them before everybody shows up here. So as they come, since we couldn't find a larger room, we got some folding chairs, and we'll just have to make do with what we have space-wise here and cozy up. So, but the reason I wanted to get together early was that we have a bill that we passed out of here called 2270, and you should have it in your folders, one that you're familiar with, that basically just updated some language. This was a bill that actually passed out last year when the prior chair was here, that in testimony there was concerns and requests for amendments. There was thought that it might kind of step on the toes of the legislative and judicial branches. So when all the CETOs got together and they found peace, then we passed this bill out. Okay, so it was supposed to then go above the line. Unfortunately, the majority leader's office didn't get that done. So what I'm going to propose is to keep this bill and get it finished is we have a Senate Bill 51 that was assigned to our committee, and I'd like to strike those contents and put 2270 into that, SB 51. So with that, I would entertain a motion to do exactly that.
Mr. Chair, I move that we take the contents of 2270 and put it into Senate Bill 51. Strike the contents of 51 first and then substitute the contents of 2270 into it.
Is there a second for that? Mr. Representative Droege, seconds. Okay. Committee, so anything further from the reviser? Is that all we need to do in terms of that? We have to vote it to approve it. Okay. So there's been a motion to strike the contents of SB 51, insert the contents of House Bill 2270. There was a second to the motion. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay, or nay, as we learned yesterday? Okay, hearing none of the above. We now have House substitute for SB 51. And I have one more amendment that I'd like to propose for the committee to consider. And I'll wait until that gets handed out. Oh, I have two now. Okay, I think everybody's got it. So basically this is more language that basically comes from the Executive Chief Information Technology Officer, Jeff Maxson. And he's requesting that there are times that his group has the ability to help support local counties and cities with services, and he would like to have language put into the statute that authorizes and makes that, I guess, technically legal. So basically what this language would say, and this, would all be within the executive branch, but it basically allows them to provide services. He talked about things like even email. Some of these locals are still on Yahoo or Gmail rather than .govs. And so this basically allows that to happen. Let me see if I've got some more language here for that. So yeah, so it allows us to extend all IT and cybersecurity services to local governments for a fee. And then it talks about those fees going into fee funds for that, which then later get offset against their budget. So they're basically doing these services for cost, and then with the money that's received, it goes into a fund that offsets their budget for these services. So that's all the comments I had. Any further explanation from the reviser? I kind of...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just point out that you'll see on page 1, the entities are limited to governmental units and subdivisions, and then any hospital or nonprofit providing certain services. And then if you look on page 2, where the money ends up going, if it's for information technology services that they're providing, it will go to the Information Technology Fund. And if it's for cybersecurity services, then it will go into the Information Technology Security Fund.
All right, so with that, any questions? Or do we need to open the amendment first? All right, so I move that we amend House Sub, I'll make the motion. I move that we amend House Sub for SB 51 with the amendment. A second from Representative Howerton. Any questions and discussion on the discussion on the amendment? Representative Oropeza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You might have mentioned this since I walked in a little bit late. Is this a have to or just an option?
It is an option.
Okay.
It's services that they can do. There's nothing explicitly saying that they can or they can't, but just to make it clean, they would like to have this language. So I said, well, I'll bring the amendment for the committee's consideration. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Representative Hellwig.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment, I just have a question on new section 1, item 2 there, where it says any hospital or nonprofit corporation. That seems awful broad. We have rural hospitals, we have massive hospitals in Johnson County, and whenever you say nonprofit corporations, that is a whole host. So is there a limit to that, or can you clarify that, how that would work?
Yes, I will take a shot at it. And I believe Mr. Maxson is online, possibly, if I can't do it. But I think the limiting language is in the rest of the sentence. It talks about any hospital that is performing any state function on an ongoing basis. So I don't think it's any hospital, it's those that are doing work on behalf of the government.
Can you explain to me what kind of work that would be that a hospital or nonprofit will be doing on part of the state?
No, that's a fair question, and beyond my knowledge is, I'm sorry, I'll come back to that. I don't know if, is the representative, or I'm sorry, is Jeff Maxim online? All right, well, let me come back to that question, and maybe we can get him to give you that explanation. Representative Oropeza?
I think the representative brings up a good question, because when you talk about state function, does that mean that they just see Medicaid, Kansas Medicaid patients? Is that considered a state function? And then when I asked my question earlier, it wasn't about the IT personnel. It was about, do the hospitals have to participate? Do the governments have to participate? Like, is this a must from their perspective? So, sorry, and I realized that after I asked my question, I did not make that clear. So does it have to from the government standpoint, or the government offices and or the hospitals, do they have to participate?
Yes, fair questions. Jeff, are you online?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I am.
Did you hear the questions specific to offering services in this hospital nonprofit corps?
Yes, sir, I did. Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. Glad to answer that. So That is part of some of the existing language that already exists out there. I just basically expanded. Right now it says we can provide telecommunication services to those entities, and this is just an expansion of that. But to the question, there are a lot of community hospitals that are run by counties, things like that, that this is meant to help provide them options if necessary. So it's not that they have to, it's just another option that we can provide to assist them if they choose so, or choose to use. So it's not a requirement that they use it. It is an optional service for them to choose to use.
Does that answer your question, Representative Oropeza? Okay. You had asked about the patients qualifying them, but okay. Representative Helwig, did you get your question answered? I'm sorry, while we've got him on the wire.
Kind of vague, but so we're using the services that they would be performing would be telecommunications. Is that what we're looking at with the hospitals and nonprofits? I'm trying to figure out what services they're providing to the states.
Jeff, can you give a flavor for that?
Yeah. So the existing language and statute already authorizes OITS to provide telecommunication services to those entities. The amendment here is to allow us to provide additional IT services and cybersecurity services to those entities beyond just telecommunication services. So we do, for example, do provide some telecommunication services to a couple local police departments, things like that. We do have connections into every county, supporting both the ks.gov networks as also as the county treasurers for motor vehicles communications as well. But this is just an expansion. Like I said, there's a lot of areas in rural Kansas that don't have IT staff or don't have the funds to procure IT or cybersecurity solutions on their own. This is just to help enable us to have a legal framework for us to provide them services if they would request them or need them.
Representative Oropeza has another question for you.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm assuming you're going to provide these services at a much reduced cost since they're not able to manage their own IT services, since you're talking about fees.
Yes. Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Yeah, the intention is that the more we bring in, obviously the greater economies of scale we can leverage and hopefully drive down costs for everybody, not just the local governments, but also for the state as a whole. So again, most software providers do volume discounts. So as we buy more licenses for a piece of software to support not just executive branch, but local governments, well, that drives the cost down for everybody.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
And my understanding was, I mean, again, they aren't required to use the services offered. This is just an alternative for them. They can compete and go out and get other vendor bids as far as your cost issue. So any further discussion or questions? Representative and Chair Smith.
I'm not chairing this committee. I just wanted to clarify, in rural Kansas, we have, most of the hospitals are county hospitals, municipal hospitals. But any hospital, even if it's a nonprofit run or even a private hospital, if they are performing a state function, this would be an option for them, regardless of their structure, if they're a county hospital or a private hospital.
That's my understanding. Mr. Maxim, you have any comments on that?
Yes. Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. The way it's written, yes, if they're providing a state function, I would assume it would be more in terms of there's some sort of contractual agreement with that hospital and not necessarily maybe that they're just providing Medicaid services. That's more of the billing mechanism, but a contractual obligation. To my knowledge, we don't have any current private hospitals that are subscribing to any of our telecommunication services. But again, this is just piggybacking off of some of the existing language that is out there now.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Does the revisor, not the reviver, although at times she has to revive us.
Sometimes I do revive, Mr. Chair.
You have additional thoughts on on the technical language?
No, I think that it is very open-ended, any state function on an ongoing basis. And I think it's possible that it could be argued doing something like providing Medicaid services would be considered a state function.
But you would agree that it doesn't impose anything on them. It just puts them in the realm of potential clients for the service.
Correct, yeah, that, it says that they may enter into an agreement with an entity. So, the assumption is that the other entity would have to agree to be participating in those services.
Thank you for that. Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm always worried about school districts and the cost of cybersecurity and technology. Does this broaden their access to state help from the executive branch, or could they already partake of some of your services? This is probably for Maxim, yeah.
Yes, I didn't know if I needed to call him in. He's being nice and let me have the floor. Mr. Maxim?
Yes, thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman, if I may. So again, kind of the same as this is to expand, so we have clear framework to provide those services to them. We're always trying to pull in the school districts to all of our engagements as much as we can. This would enable us to legally provide services to the school districts if they would request.
Thank you. I really appreciate you bringing this amendment.
All right. Any further? Oh, Representative Oropeza, sorry.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one more question. Do you have an example of what the provide certain services to political subdivisions is? Like what an example of who that would be?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so a political subdivision is a city or county government.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's not as, well, I guess they are political entities, aren't they? So any further questions or comments on the amendment? Okay. Did I move the amendment or I can't, right? Oh, that's right. All right. So I close on the amendment. All those in favor of passing the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay or nay. All right. Thank you. So we are back on the bill, correct, Reviser? So any further discussion on the amended bill now? Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I woke up this morning thinking about our AI task force and briefly considered trying to figure out a way to try to amend something like that onto whatever we were going to do today. But of course, I didn't have a bill number, and I wouldn't want to do that without discussing it with you first. But I was sad that the AI task force bill died. I believe it's dead. And so I don't know if there's conversation about having interims about AI, but I hope we would do something like that. And I think we've missed an opportunity if we don't form an AI task force at this point so that we can get some formal work done with transparency for the public. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on the bill as amended? If not, all those in favor of passage, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right, thank you. The bill passes. And with that, I see some of our joint meeting folks have joined. There are folding chairs over here that we may, I don't know if Representative Carr is not going to be here, but we got one open chair, otherwise. Oh, we're going to, yes, over here. So we'll take a brief break, or well, don't go anywhere. I just meant we'll get set up here and we'll start the joint meeting with Chair Wassinger. Thank you.
I'm ready at any time you are. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for letting us do this joint meeting. It helps, I think, to get more information out at a time. So I appreciate it. There are also seats in the middle that you can sit in too that are a little softer. I don't know. I will introduce Andrew Weens because he's going to be telling us who's going to talk to us about ERP systems. And please introduce yourself and welcome to committee.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chair, Andrew Weens with Dugan Consulting Group, representing CGI Technologies. And so the conferee you'll hear from on ERP today from our client is David Karlsruher. And then, Madam Chair, I don't know if it's appropriate. I think Paul Davis is here representing a different client that's also speaking. So I don't know if you want me to pass it on to him or.
I'm sorry, there's some testimony that was put on the table back there so we can hand those out, if possible. They are, and I guess everyone that's already on the committee, it should be in your folder somewhere. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Andrew. Here, you can just put them up here, and if anybody needs them, I can keep passing, so. I think a lot of them have it. If you want more, you can. Did you have this one too? There's two. All right, sorry, Andrew, I'm going to interrupt you again.
You want me to take another stab at it?
Yes,
Okay.
let's start over.
All right, backing up. Andrew Weens with Dugan Consulting Group, representing CGI Technologies, and David Karlsruher is here with CGI to present. But I believe, Madam Chair, that Workday, I think, is going to present first, so I don't know if it'd be appropriate to have Paul Davis introduce Tracy, or at the chair's pleasure, of course.
That would be good.
Thank you.
Welcome to committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Chair. Really appreciate you taking the time to have this hearing about modernization and ERP systems. And Andrew and Mark Dugan and I have been working together on this issue for a number of years here. And it's
Paul, I don't want to interrupt you.
Yes.
Can you please introduce yourself for the record?
Paul Davis, and representing Workday. Tracy Barnes is here from Workday. He is the former CIO of the state of Indiana and has a great deal of experience. And I think this will be an informative hearing. And I think that we agreed that Mr. Barnes was going to go first. And so if you're ready for him,
We are.
right ahead.
Come on down and please introduce yourself. Welcome to committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair. Good morning, I'm Tracy Barnes. I am the SLED Strategy Director, Public Sector Strategy Director for Workday. I've been with Workday for about a year, but prior to that, as Paul mentioned, I spent the last 4.5 years as the CIO for the state of Indiana. In that role, you do a lot with modernization and gives a lot of perspective and insight into how things usually operate and function and flow from a state government perspective. I had the opportunity to oversee modernization efforts such as revenue and tax management, pension and employee benefit management, licensing and permitting, and relevant to the topic today, human capital management and overall payroll consolidation and things of that nature. These are big projects and big initiatives, but do not let the size deter you from the thought and consideration of moving a project like this forward. In my perspective, and as I've been around the nation talking to other CIOs and other legislatures, states have to continue to modernize, especially when you look at the back office operations and keep the operation flowing fully operational, fully strong, with strong consideration for how the operation supports the agencies and their missions and the citizens of your great state of Kansas here.
Tracy, I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you explain in very simple terms what an ERP is and why we need an ERP? And then you can explain the rest of what you have.
I can.
Thank you.
So you already have an ERP system, but ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. And the big key of that is the word enterprise. And with an ERP system, what you're essentially doing is bringing the entire complexity of your operation into one systemized platform. So you look at the various components, whether it's from a financial standpoint, you're looking at requisitions, purchase orders, accounts payable, budgeting, planning, reconciliation, annual reporting, and how that flows from one agency's request to a central agency's oversight and management, and ultimately to reporting that comes up to the legislature. That's kind of how the financials landscape seems to flow and operate. From an HR and payroll standpoint, you're starting with the recruiting, the onboarding, the getting new employees in, employee retention, performance management, time and labor entry. You flow over into payroll, which is a significant and important piece that operates and continues that consistent side on the HR payroll footprint. And then all the way through to retirement, and then often that integration with retirement systems to make sure that as folks leave public operations, public sector, they're able to continue receiving those benefits and services that they so desperately need and have earned. The footprint that you already have is an ERP system that has been in place for a significant amount of time, and it's not very different than how many other states are currently operating. I can tell you in Indiana, our ERP system went in the late 90s and has still been getting modernized up until I left last year, but we did our last payroll conversion in 2022. And as started to begin to look at what's the next step, and as ERP has shifted, the market has grown significantly, and the capabilities of technology, as I'm sure you've all seen and heard with a committee of this experience, cloud technologies related to AI, storage, growth, data center questions, concerns, but most importantly, the ability to improve operations, especially in this day and age where you have growing demands from citizens and constituents, and higher expectations from administration and leadership, but often shrinking resources from a financial standpoint, and resources with the expertise and the technical capability to support what we consider now some of these old legacy platforms and legacy systems. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure.
Chair Turner.
Thank you. You know, as you talked about all those systems basically being able to talk to each other and pass information, often in my past life in the business world, you had to buy those products from a single vendor in order to really have them truly be able to communicate at that level. Is that not the case here, or we have disparate systems that somehow are doing this?
My understanding of your current environment, you have a plethora of systems that are kind of bound together, providing some of those operations. You do have a significant core ERP, but there are often ancillary systems that support various functions. And I would say this in general, not specific to Kansas, you often have agencies that we have to do something special, and we need to do something different. And so we'll need to add on a module or a function or a feature or another tool on the side, and we'll work on integration and trying to bring that together. As ERP has continued to grow and become a much stronger core operation, a lot of those features and functions have continued to become much more centralized and a part of the overall core. There's still the absolute ability to look at HCM and payroll as one world, and financials as one world, and budget and planning as another world. But you do have tools that bring that all together as well to make sure that the entire operation of an organization, whether it's a government, a manufacturing entity, retail industry, healthcare, can do that full operation within one framework.
Are there any other questions right now? Or we can go have both presentations taken care of, and then you will both be available for answers?
Yes, ma'am.
That'd be great.
Okay. So a few things I just want to kind of talk about. You have a handout in front of you. I'm not going to go through and read it word by word. And as we talked about, David and I have some similar discussion points that we want to make sure we bring forward. But the business drivers and some things that I wanted to really point out to this group. As you may know, some of you may have been involved. There was funding initially in the budget about a year or so ago for a project to get started to take this modernization effort on. It did not make it all the way through to the completion of that budget cycle. And so now we're back just trying to make sure we reinforce the importance and significance of an effort like this, and really kind of bring some lessons learned that we've seen in other jurisdictions across the nation. The business drivers that I like to talk about, which to me is the most important side of it, even as a technology executive, business has to be the driver for a modernization effort. It is not just about we need new tools and new technology and we need some new cool toys. We have to look at, what is our ability to meet that demand for the increased and improved services that our leadership is asking for and that our citizens are demanding that we are able to provide for them. Business process efficiency and optimization. This is a huge piece, and you look at how state governments and governments overall have continued to adjust what they do and how they do, and again, what are the outcomes for those activities and operations. Business process efficiency is a huge priority in a number of government entities. And that's something that we are very focused on within the industry, is making sure that as you take these efforts on, we look to identify areas where we can say, we can stop people from saying, well, this is how we've always done it, versus looking at this is what makes sense to do and this is where we're at today. And the last big piece from a business driver standpoint, which I think would be near and dear to a lot of your hearts, is with the more modernized next generation ERP platforms that are out there, the ability to implement legislative and regulatory changes on a much faster basis. And a lot of the legacy systems that I've seen and that I've operated within as well, those changes come down at the end of a session, and it can take months to get those efforts into the new tools, to update the reporting, to update whatever additional services are being added. And we've worked to find ways to streamline that to make sure that we're getting those actions able to be implemented a lot quicker and a lot more effectively. There are some technical drivers that I'll mention as well. Again, as a technician, near and dear to my heart, is as you're dealing with the legacy platforms, the aging infrastructure and what it takes to continue to maintain a lot of that server base, that hardware operation, the technologies that are needed to support those systems and those platforms are continuing to get older, which are continuing to rise, make those costs rise, and again, make it difficult and challenging to manage the talent and retain the talent that supports them. With the evolution of cloud, which is not necessarily something that I'd say is we all have to look at cloud, and the cloud is the end-all be-all for modernization. But with the evolution that cloud brings, it really does open up an opportunity for much more of that broader scope and expanded capability that does allow for the shadow systems to start to fade away and to be pulled into more of a central footprint. The evolution of cloud, the security that comes with cloud is a significant improvement over where things have been over the last 10 years and even over the last 5 years because of the investments that have been made across the IT landscape. A couple of risks that I'll point out literally with delaying modernization is really like when you delay maintenance on a vehicle or a house, is those costs continue to go up and those problems don't go away. And as you do the same thing with technology, in my world, we like to call it technical debt. But what ends up happening is, as you're continuing to try and maintain that legacy infrastructure, those costs start growing, I don't want to say exponentially, but at a pretty significant rate compared to what it takes to keep the day-to-day operation flowing. So the sooner you address that and attack that, and at least start getting the projects in place to move that forward, you really start to get control over those costs and put yourself in a position that you're using those funds for actual future investment and growth, and not necessarily just to keep the lights on and keep Band-Aids flowing from old technology and old systems. And another big piece, which I know we all deal with in state government, is as you do delay projects of this nature, you begin to run the risk of losing domain knowledge and talent and individuals that have been in the organization for a long time, know the core operation and reasons and justification as to why things were set up the way they were. Just because the retirement population in state governments are always pretty high. And it's always something that we're looking at is while the system may still be functioning today, if we lose certain individuals, how long will we be able to keep it functioning as we work to figure out what it is that we're going to do on our next iteration? Some of the benefits of modernization that I'll mention quickly is, as I talked about earlier, better transparency for stakeholders, individuals like yourself, the public, much more reporting capabilities, the ability to get more access and visibility into the underlying data that drives and justifies the financial reporting and things of that nature, stronger in accuracy in reporting and features and functions, which has been a problem that has plagued a lot of the legacy systems over the years, especially as you're bringing in data from disparate multiple systems and trying to reconcile and collaborate that together. Some of the lessons learned that we have seen, and I have seen, and this is very broad with general modernization and IT perspective, and specifically ERP as well, is the biggest one that I would say is executive leadership and executive sponsorship. Again, this should not and cannot just be a technical activity. You must have executive ownership that says, this is a priority, this is what we're going to focus on, this is what I need all the agencies and teams to get behind and do, as well as that ongoing advisory and guidance to make sure that milestones are being met, deadlines are being adhered to, and the progress is effectively being made. That is, to me, the ultimate key to success with any ERP modernization and general IT modernization footprint. Another big one is initial planning and preparation. This can start well before the ERP project with bringing the right teams together to really look at what are our goals, what are our outcomes, what are we trying to accomplish, who are the players that need to be at the table, and who are the teams that we need to be including and engaging to make sure that we have good buy-in, good support, and a good roadmap to take the project forward. And that sets a good framework once the project is started to make sure that the individuals involved, whether it's within the state side or within the vendor community, know what the goals and expectations are and are able to meet them successfully. And lastly, I'll just kind of talk through the general landscape of what we're seeing out there. As you have a few different approaches. As I mentioned, you have your financials world, your HR payroll world, your budgeting planning world. We have states that we've seen doing it a number of different ways. The state of Georgia is doing a full suite implementation of HR, finance, budgeting all at one time. State of North Carolina has taken a different approach where they're doing module by module and saying, hey, we want to focus over here and put all our attention there and be a little more diligent with that focus. And we have a number of states. I've just listed state of North Dakota, which has recently put some information out. About another half dozen other states are in the same phase that you're in and saying, hey, what do we need to be doing? What's next? What do we need to be thinking about? How do we get ourselves prepared for what's next? And how do we put ourselves in the best position to be successful when we do embark upon that initiative and that activity? And with that, I'll close and say this is a significant investment, not just for the state, but for the entire community that engages in and operates and connects with a state enterprise resource planning system like this. It is of significant importance. It is something that has absolutely been near and dear to my heart as I've been in the ERP space for almost 30 years. And in all things state government, while you look at Medicaid systems and the populations that they are connecting with, child support and child welfare systems and the populations that they're connecting with, ERP is the system that connects with all your state agencies and all your state employees to make sure that they are able to do the job that they need to do to support those constituencies. And that's why I feel like it has to be given the attention and the significant prioritization that it needs in order to get those projects kicked off, done successfully, and into production. So with that, I will close, and we'll be prepared for questions at the end.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Welcome to committee. I'm not sure I'd say your name properly, so please introduce yourself.
I will say that it's German and very long. So I'm David Karlsruher. I'm with CGI Technologies. CGI is a rather large company you've probably never heard of. We don't sponsor many golfers or race cars, but we do a lot of work in a lot of states. And I appreciate Tracy being here. And to be clear, we've come together because we are in an industry, we are direct competitors. Very competitive industry. He raced me up the steps earlier, so he won. But I'm here more for the government affairs side to explain maybe how you guys can talk to your constituents about this. I think if you can hear what good this is going to do internally, maybe it helps if you can tell externally exactly what you're doing. I'll start with the scariest part. We talked about you have a very old system. It's very patchwork together. It's kind of like your uncles got together and added on to the house. Well-meaning but not very talented. Sometimes you have to turn on a light in the kitchen to get the bedroom light to come on. Your system is that. They were well-meaning, and each part was going on their own and trying to put it together, and now they're trying to talk together. If you had 4 people all go to lunch together right now, and they didn't have very good cell service, you would not be able to get a bunch of things done here, much less if they retired, found a new job, went to go chase one of their favorite bands around the country. You're kind of in almost a crisis level of users, the people who have the knowledge in order to execute what you need for the different systems here. So The good news is, because this is such a highly competitive market, and it wasn't so 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we got really good as an industry. So good. We started with places like California with lots of employees and big budgets and lots of inputs. We learned from places like New York and Florida and other places that have started modernization. You're at a point where we've gotten really good at this. We understand what you need. We can implement these systems a lot more efficiently. It doesn't take 5 years. We understand some of the special needs. With many other states have those needs. You get the benefit of what we've learned other places. It's like buying the first year model car, right? You're like, I don't want all those problems. Well, you're in a part of the system where adopting it, you're going to be the beneficiary of everything everybody in the industry has learned. And believe me, it's a big, very competitive industry. So what I wanted to say is who exactly benefits from this and what are the kind of the different groups. Your vendor market is a very big, important thing. I think you understand there's a lot of people who do business with the state. There's a lot of appropriated money going out, everything from paving roads to providing janitorial services for buildings to, you name it, fleet cars for many of the agencies. These systems really streamline those billing at money coming in, going out, allows you to track them very precisely. It allows the agency. You guys can get you'll find fraud, you'll find problems. But the thing is the good vendors get paid faster, the bad vendors get kicked out. You're able to examine things against what the budget and what the contract says. It's all gonna happen very quickly. The skill level of your workers, they're gonna be relying a little bit on this. They're gonna be learning along with the systems. But instead of having one person that's just, perfect on it, they know everything, this is gonna allow someone with a little less experience to examine what's coming in and out. These things are beneficial to you because you can see the state impact on what you're doing with your outside vendors, right? They're gonna enjoy it, doing business with the state, the RFP process, the getting onboarded, it's gonna be a lot easier. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had anybody go, man, I would like to do some business with the state of Kansas, but man, it's just so hard to get in there and then, putting in, these things really streamline that. And that saves you money overall because they're not gonna be charging you a premium for doing business with Kansas. So that's something that's very important. State employees are second on my list because, one, the hiring process for anywhere you work is complicated. It's getting better. These modules in here are gonna help put people on board faster. From the time that they get onto your website and put a resume in to the point that you're having an interview and you get them onboarded electronically, we've done great with this. The employee satisfaction goes up after you put these modules in. We've proven that as an industry over and over again. More importantly, you're gonna make sure that you have a very secure and accurate payroll system. So good are these systems that in very large, complicated populations in other states with union employees and employees that are retired and some that are semi-retired, they're hitting paychecks at 99.9% accuracy every single week or every month or however, they're getting paid, which is a very hard thing to do. You don't have coming. So we've gotten really good at that. That makes them a lot more happy. They're getting their money. They don't have the problems. And it's a very secure system. That's the thing, we'll talk about security on this to make sure that somebody's not jumping in. And what are they gonna do, steal people's information or are they gonna start writing themselves checks? Likely they're gonna start writing themselves checks. So we've got these apparatuses to keep them to doing that. Second is the executive branch agency folks, your friends. They've got to be better at their job and the more information they have, the better dashboards they can get, the more they can look into real-time numbers, the better. And like I said earlier, you've got about 4 people, and this is a real number that we've mapped. With these dashboards, it runs a lot like an app on your phone or something, very modern. You can have people trained up to analyze very quickly. This doesn't take a lot of, I would say, programming knowledge, which the folks that you have right now, they've done a great job. They've become computer programs and expert in government business, right, at the same time. You're gonna kind of separate that. The system's gonna work for these folks. They're gonna be able to manipulate what they have to manipulate within a dashboard. And they'll be able to send reports out in real time to agency heads. And agency heads can talk to the governor's office. And the governor's office can make reports to you guys on demand. And it's all going to be very transparent. Governments have really scored much higher once they've done this with government transparency. I don't know if you guys have ever run into an agency and guys, can we get a report on what happened? And they said, we'll get back to you, it's going to come out. And all of a sudden you hear an old dot matrix printer going up. Well, we all like these printouts, these are nice, but it's hard to manipulate this data. So when you guys have the ability for you and your staff to get their data, you can forecast on your own. You can figure out where things have gone wrong or right. So you won't have any more siloed agencies. Tracy talked a little bit about that. Everybody put their module, this module, they got some money and they started this. The agencies will be reporting back into one central area. So you'll be able to say, you guys are on an even platform. Of course, there's going to be some considerations for each agency that might need a little bit of bug, but it still comes up into the central platform in the end and allows everybody, if an agency loses a head or loses a thing, boom, you're right back in that, you have other people that can support them. Now, the legislative branch and you guys are one of the most important things. And I'm going to tell you, it's not just about the knowledge that you have. I look at a lot of you guys been here since mid-January. This isn't fun for you, and none of you are getting rich, right? You must have a deep commitment to your constituents to be here. And you want to have a commitment that says, I want a more efficient, better run government. But you're also going to say, I'm going to spend a little bit of money on this too. Well, this is a benefit for the people of Kansas because they are going to be able to, as your messengers to them, have the knowledge. You won't be able to say, I didn't know this happened. I didn't know that this is a knowledge base. The government's not going to fundamentally change the services that it provides. It's just going to provide a way that's more efficient to report that out. So hopefully when you guys go ahead and go through and we've talked about these Doge things nationwide. We're going to look in and we're going to dig in. This is an automatic Doge because it's just a matter of someone's eyes. You don't have to hire someone new to go, we're really going to look at it this time. This entire system runs fundamentally on that. So hopefully you'd be able to go back, and we spoke fast and there was a lot of things, but we wrote some things down. If you had to talk to your constituents about why you'd want to spend or invest in this in Kansas, the reasons are in here. It's going to make you guys better government. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we can go and do any questions that anyone has. Representative Bourgeon.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the two gentlemen being here and hearing their presentations. I wondered if our chair and other chair, I guess, could give us some sort of context. Are we getting ready to engage in some sort of contract for these services? What should we be preparing for?
Well, I think, I think what they're wanting to do is present proposals next year and try to modernize the IT department, which probably is a problem that we don't have IT sitting here. No offense, but we don't have the leadership of IT sitting right here. I'm sure you've already talked to him. But I was sitting down and thinking, okay, I knew that you needed to talk to the Committee for Modernization, but the other reason was for me to be here was because I hear IT's budget. And so this past year, we increased their budget substantially because when 4 years ago, our judiciary got hacked, and it was made very clear that all of our agencies, in particular the legislature, was very vulnerable. So this is, I believe, more of an offshoot of continued modernization that IT has been trying to do and trying to make sure that they keep us.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
That does answer. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Representative Simmons.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. I have a few questions. I'm not sure who the best one would be to answer. So I did a bit of cursory research, and it appears in a number of states there have been class action lawsuits over wage errors. In Oregon, there was a $15 million class action settlement. In fact, can someone maybe speak to that? and contextualized by criticism of Workday from unions is what I'm concerned about also.
Thank you for the question. I don't have full details of that specific initiative, but what we've seen is, as you're especially dealing with, when you're putting a system of this size and stature, especially dealing with unions, the details that come through the collective bargaining agreements, the details that come through how wages are calculated, how they're presented, and how they're delivered, those are significant details and requirements that we all have to get on the same page on to make sure that we're implementing and deploying and delivering them accurately. We've seen this not just with the Workday implementations. This has been a consistent problem with a number of platforms across the country, where you have a lot of internal knowledge and experience that does not always make it into the details of the contract and of the requirements and of the roadmap that have to be delivered and deployed and configured. And usually when you have that mishap is you start having issues with meeting those demands, understanding those demands, and getting them configured properly. Another big piece that often plays into situations like this that do arise is testing and validation. Again, as I mentioned earlier, when you talk about making sure that you have the right people at the table, you have the right constituencies involved, the business owners must be heavily engaged. They have a very crucial piece to make sure that before something does get deployed, they are there to make sure that the testing is going through to completion, that they're seeing the results that they're looking for, the expectations are being met and managed and maintained, and that there is overall cohesiveness before something like that goes into production. So that's usually the main problems that we've seen when you have kind of payroll issues or concerns like that. You know, Workday partners with its customers and clients very intimately. And so that's where you start getting into a situation where how do we make sure, you know, our success is your success. And we have to be committed to making sure that we get there collectively. And so that's where you kind of run into how do we identify our problem, how do we resolve that problem, how do we engage as a partner and as a trusted partner, and how do we stick with you through the success of your constituencies?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that. I do have one follow-up. It said that the state of Oregon spent $21 million on the process of adopting Workday, and it took 4 years. The operation was adopted in 2019, and in 2023, they were still having problems. So I hear you big time that it needs to be a comprehensive and diligent process, particularly considering the complexity of state government. I think if I were going to support this, I represent Topeka, and we have many, many state government employees. And so I think I would appreciate if Workday could maybe share with us some a detailed response to those concerns and maybe how we could avoid that in the state of Kansas if we were going to move forward with Workday.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
All right, Representative Neighbor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess I'd like an answer from both of you. Years ago, I owned a computer business. And it's easy for people to come in and say, we can do this, we can do this, and we can do this, and it'll all match. That's not true. We have several agencies today that have made major upgrades, costly upgrades that we needed, our Department of Labor, our judicial branch, and there are some others that are in the process, our DCF are in the process. How would your plan mesh with that? Because they have spent millions of dollars already. So are we going to be in the business of spending more to upgrade theirs to facilitate everybody working together? I hope not. Second of all, you obviously would run a parallel system when these things went in to make sure we had a good match. And what kind of maintenance contracts are you looking at from year to year? Because what I buy today is gone tomorrow. It's old. We as a state cannot play that game. How do we address that? And that's for both of you.
And I'll go forward without getting too much into what my company specifically does versus the other. That was kind of our truths. But I can tell you kind of industry-wise, you are right. There are going to be legacy systems in which they've spent some money on, and you're going to have to integrate them into these new systems. The good news is, as while we think technology has gotten so much broader, there's kind of been some lanes we've gone down with certain platforms that we all work with. We just kind of we're all kind of running on a Chevy chassis, and we're just kind of putting a different body on it. That's what's happened in this industry, and I said we're highly competitive, and we've gotten a lot better at it. We've all kind of come together and started some uniform code and some uniform platforms in which we all work on in order to mitigate the costs of that. So if you've already modernized something, you've spent that money. If the new company has to integrate it, that's going to be a part of the cost up front when they bid on this, is say integrate. They're not going to be required to, quote, modernize those other guys if they're at the top level if they need to be. Now, on your second question on the maintenance contract, so it's an unfortunate racket that's out there. And what happens is, and I'll just give you guys a thing, what happens with software. And I'm not an original technology guy, so I'm speaking from somebody who started this 3.5, 4 years ago. A company comes out with a very big major software. You hear about the software. Everybody loves it. Everybody gets on it, and they say, guess what? We're no longer servicing that software because we've got a new thing. So you can either move to the new thing or just live with your new thing or the old thing. But then there's third-party companies who said, we know everything about the old thing, and we will come service it. So you kind of, while they're no longer going to serve it, you're now paying another company, and they aren't necessarily trained in the same factory that it was built in, right? So yes, you have a very valid concern. However, I will tell you that in the market, and when your IT, when you go out for bid for this, you'll have several departments that are going to be overseeing and having their idea in the bid. You're going to have an IT and the IT component for that. One thing they're trying to solve for is, what is the long-term maintenance on this? Do you do that in-house? Do we own the software? The thing. Those questions are going to be asked by the state of Kansas of the bidders. All right? And I think that it's imperative that folks in this room are involved in those kind of, when it's funded and the RFP goes out and says, I don't want this, or I do want this. So I think maintenance contracts are going to be imperative because all things change. However, the size and scope of them can be managed. Does that help a little? Or if not, Tracy's got all the answers.
All right, thank you. So as it relates to dealing with the ancillary systems that are at agencies that have either already been modernized or in the process of being modernized, as David mentioned, the space has grown significantly and technology has improved massively. And so the ability to integrate has really opened up across the board. So our platform is built on open APIs, and API stands for Application Programming Interfaces. And what that allows you to do is, depending on what level of technology you have at the counter system that you're looking at, our system is able to communicate and talk directly with it to share and open that information up to make it accessible and eligible for consumption on the other side. That allows you to modernize at your own pace at the in-site level versus being forced to because of a central modernization. That is something we have been very focused on, that open architecture technology, because we know we're going into organizations and environments that do not have all modernized platforms and systems and functions. And that's not even just the case in government. You have a lot of organizations on the healthcare and manufacturing side that have old technology, old legacy systems that still are looking for file transfers and data extractions and FTPs and things of that nature. And so because of our ability to go more broadly across and our focus on that, our open architecture has allowed us to stay more integrated and connected to the levels depending on where those other systems are at without it being forced upon our modernization effort and activity. Again, our model is a bit different. We are a subscription-based platform, and so there's not necessarily an ongoing maintenance versus there's an annual subscription cost. Cloud-based software as a service, and so what that does is you're not paying for maintenance every year. Maintenance is automatically coming in the 2 releases that we do each year. And we coordinate that with the customers. We give them time to review, vet, validate, and understand what's included in those. And that way the systems are perpetually updated and you're not falling behind and you're not getting hit with exorbitant maintenance costs that were not planned for or expected.
Okay, does that help? Really, we're running out of time, so yes, you go ahead. No, go ahead, if you want a quick one.
Okay, when you do your updates, do you make sure that those are going to be compatible with everything that you've already installed? Because sometimes that doesn't happen.
So, of course, the short answer is yes. There's also the responsibility of our customer to make sure and validate that within their environments. So we put it out there, we make that release available for early consumption and awareness and adoption and testing and validating, and we can work with the customers on when that preparedness is.
Representative Brantley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mine's kind of a twofold question. When I was at the university, we moved to Workday. How many of our universities in Kansas do you know are already actively using Workday, and probably for the last 10 plus years?
So Fort Hays State and University of Kansas Medical Center.
Okay, so I was at Fort Hays State when we transitioned to the Workday, and it was a very seamless process, very easy to access all of your HR, any of your order forms. It was all very easy to access, so I was very pleased, and that was over 10 years ago, so.
Thank you.
I think I'd be very favorable for Workday.
Okay. All right, Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I just didn't really hear what differentiates each of you from your competitor, so I thought I'd give you a chance to just give me like the biggest bang for your buck reason that we should go with you rather than another company.
This is where it gets uncomfortable. We had a truce, but well, I think I will be honest with you. Is when you scope out the work and when you have some of the fine minds that are working here with you that understand the ERP, you guys fund it. There's going to be some certain things they really want that may point towards an Oracle product or a Workday product or this. I mean, I will tell you about, just by a company, a simple thing, the product in which we use is our own IP, and that we service it. We're the only, we're the only one. We don't pair up with another company, so that there's 2 parts to this sometimes. There's an implementer and there's a software. So a software company like Oracle doesn't implement their own product. They either have Deloitte or another partner, Accenture, implement it. So you kind of have a split, not necessarily a split procurement unless it's the, so we're just a little bit different. We do both the implementation and the software. We're just completely in-house. When something goes wrong, you can only point at one of us. We can't have anybody else to point at. So that's kind of what differentiates us. We're just all one product, implementer and software.
Thank you, David. We consider ourselves the only true next generation ERP platform. We're modern built, built for the cloud and in the cloud. We're not a situation where we've had a legacy technology that we've had to move to a modern environment and platform. And so that has allowed us to really adopt, again, as I've talked about, a lot of the new technology capabilities that others are weaving into their environment. It's been native for us, which has allowed us to grow and really expand and put more emphasis in the future of our product across the nation.
Thank you.
Okay, Representative Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It just seemed like that previous question was getting us onto the verge of tinging on an RFP, and so I think we need to kind of be in the scope of what this meeting is all about.
Okay. All right. Representative Oropeza.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. And I just had one quick comment. As we look at these potential platforms, I've worked with one. Unfortunately, from a user standpoint, I work with it once or twice a year, and it's very hard to do. It's not user-friendly. So I just, as we look at this in a modality-wise, if we're, as legislators, going to be potentially reviewing our OAs using this, we use it once a year. That is something we may want to make sure that it is a user-friendly from our standpoint, especially if you're only using it once a year. Thank you.
Very good advice. Okay, I would like to ask Jeff Maxon a quick question. Apparently, he's still on the committee. Okay, Jeff, can you tell me how much you tried to budget for this last year?
Yes, thank you, Madam
I did
Chair.
not, obviously. Our committee obviously did not give you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the time real quickly. So 2 years ago, Department of Administration worked through a feasibility study to see what it would entail to modernize the ERP system. We've had our current one in production for approximately 20 years. So we're getting to that time where we do need to modernize. So D of A undertook a feasibility study to analyze and assess our options and come up with an estimated price tag. Again, this is a D of A project since they're the primary owners of it, but I do believe this is a multi-year project, and I believe that first ask that was put forward by D of A, I think, was approximately $30 million.
Okay, you might understand why I was a little hesitant to pass that along. Thank you. And Representative Brunk, I think you have a question, and I think you're our last one.
Thank you, then. Have either of you ever worked in doing this with the state and centralizing services, maybe from counties, county register of deeds, treasurer reports, those kinds of functions? And so we have 105 counties. Each one of them have duplicate systems. Have you done anything to centralize those systems to save money?
I'll answer real quick too. I guess yes, and I think that there is a market. It's a little bit outside of this, but that centralizes those systems. I'll give you guys a hint. A lot of this comes from crime statistic reports. County crime go up to the state crime. They do reporting. A lot of that looks how you record deeds up to the state and do those type of things. I'm not sure the ERP is going to cover this, but he could say if he's got experience in that.
So not
Tracy, you used words like ability to integrate, more centralized opportunities for efficiency, and so.
Yeah, so the possibility is absolutely there. You know, what typically gets in the way of initiatives and efforts like that are the politics, much more than a possibility. So the platforms, and I would say confidently, I don't think it matters which platform, is if you can put together a cohesive model with proper governance, support, and maintenance, the ability to be able to share any statewide system with local governments, with local entities, as you talked about earlier in one of the amendments that was brought forth. We did some similar things from a cybersecurity standpoint in Indiana, and we're pursuing and looking at ideas and opportunities around, is it possible and how do we put ERP into a central footprint so we can actually raise the level of financial reporting and financial auditability of our local governments.
Okay, so I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank my committee for coming. And I appreciate that Chair Turner allowed general governmental budget to come in here. So I would like you to close your meeting because this is your committee meeting. So I'll let you do that. All right, having completed our business, we are adjourned. Thank you all.